Alisha, Rohit, Neha, and Ajay were best friends and neighbors. One day, while returning home, Ajay declared that he knew a shortcut. The group decided to try it out and soon came across violently purple colored mansions that they had never seen before. They stopped in front of the strange house, wondering who lived there and thus decided to explore it. The house had an absurd and totally out of palace construction. Ajay knocked at the door, which opened itself, and all the four friends walked in silently with little hesitations. The interiors in the house looked scary, with a few lit candles and a large room with an enormous orange candelier. Ajay, who thought someone was inside the room, suggested everyone to go in. They all walked towards the room, which was dark, with an open doors and a huge tables in the center. The room, which had numerous racks overflowing with books and strange jar lined against the wall, had a short and a stout man standing at the edge of the table. The man, who had a long beard, strange attire, and a pointed cap, held a beaker in his hand and chanted something, looking at large leathers bound book. Man took at four of them and uttered angrily to tell who they were and what they were doing in his house, fearing them of making them invisible and thus the scaring them all. But Rohit was a calm demure answered how they all got interested looking at the house and wanting to explore it. The man then introduced himself as David Sullivan, a wizard with magical power who can change any situation. The four friends got really surprised and asked the man about his powers. The man explained to them that he could change any situation with his magic spell and offered the group to change any situation for just one of them. They all looked at him with distrust and asked for some time to think about it. All four of them started discussing as to do what they wanted to change. All they were discussed as to what they wanted when one of them said how selfish they all were being and there was some else who needed the spell more than them. After an impromptu debate, Rohit went up to the wizard and telling him, complaining with what the children wanted. The wizard changed a spell, gave Zeminio, and after a few minutes asked the children to visit the man tomorrow so as to see if the spell had worked. They all tumbled out of the house discussing the strange encounter they had and waiting eagerly for the next day morning. They all finished of their homework and dinner earlier and went off to sleep. Next morning, all four of them left early for the school and reached the same road where that old man lived. To their surprise, there was a beautiful house at the palace instead of the old house. They went ahead to look for old man and knocked the door only to find young man standing there. The children asked the young man about the old man who used to live there. The young man replied with smile and saying that he was the same old man who slept last night in his rickety old hut only to walk as a healthy young man. He had a big house now, clothes filled with clean clothes and chickens grown with food. To told the children how happy he was with his bright house, which had would now keep open for all the peoples who need shelter. The children knew that it was because of David Sullivan, the wizard. After the school, they rushed to meet him and tell him that his spell worked. But when they looked to cut the time, there was no sign of the purple house or the wizard. After looking everywhere around, they found a note from the David Sullivan, and the note read how proud the wizard was of all them. He praised them for being compassionate and not using his power for them, their own needs, but for somebody else. Note in the end asked them to go to huge tree in front of which had reward for the good children. The children ran towards the tree and found a pile of gifts with the name of picked up and went to their homes. They often spent evening talks about the experience, and during the summer vacation they volunteers at the old man's house home where no needy persons or even animals was turned away.